Have lived through miniaturization in our lifetime. There's actually a law, Bell's law, that tells you that devices like our cell phones decrease in size by about 100-fold in volume every 10 years. And we're now at the sub-millimeter scale of this kind of progression. What do we do with it? Well, we can build sensors. Our cars have about 400 sensors or more to figure out how the engine works and monitor the health of the engine. Our wireless phones have 10 sensors. We don't have any. Okay, we are flying blind. We essentially get medication and we don't know whether it works until we talk to the doctor. So when I started my career, I was thinking that bionics would be fantastic, very interesting, and it would enable us to transcend our present capabilities. We could make super capabilities. But I think we can all agree, what's more useful to do is to build systems that would help this gentleman control their health, to monitor their health continuously. We all have different baselines. We all have different metabolisms. We really have to have that feedback that allows us to identify what's wrong while it's happening so that we can adjust our behavior. So in this 1 cent middle thing there, you can see a tiny little device. That's the kind of chips we build to do this. We can build now using microelectronics these structures down to less than a millimeter in size, put them into the body, and monitor things like glucose for diabetics. Kidney failure patients may want to measure their metabolites. The way we do it is we have some power supply and communication on the chip. And then we measure something. So we power it, in this case with a photovoltaic cell. We measure something and then we transmit that out through an optical communication system. These kinds of systems can be really small, really compact. And in this case, this one is about 0.4 millimeters in the long direction. And what that gives us is very local measurements. It also gives us the fact that these things move with the tissue that surrounds them. So there's less irritation of the cells that are next to them. It turns out everything moves together. So they are able to measure something for longer because the body doesn't get irritated. It doesn't react as badly. And we can build these systems that sort of look like dust. You know, it's like microdust, right? The idea really is that we can use these to monitor our health. And so in one particular example, we're trying to look for glucose. And the first tests we did about a year ago involved chicken breast. So my students ate chicken for a while. It's basically, we put our little sensor underneath 5 millimeters of chicken breast, and we monitored, and we managed to get information in and out, power in, information out, and we observed that we could get really high sensitivity of glucose that we could measure over as long as about 6 weeks. So we can measure continuously inside of something through the skin and do this optically. There's another way of doing it, and that's using microwaves or inductive systems. And it turns out that's an interesting option because if you wanted to use your cell phone, you would have an opportunity of using that as the reader. So in this kind of system, we have an antenna that is on the chip that's inside of our body. It's shown by this sort of circular outside, or these wires that are on the outside. These are used for powering the device and also for transmitting the data back out of the body. And it turns out they work at about 900 megahertz. It's sort of like an RF tag. You turn it on by giving it a signal of spikes, and then it transmits out digitally 8-byte words that tell you what the current is that was measured on the potentiostat. So it's truly digital healthcare because you're measuring digitally what's happening. And we're reading these things now. We're transcending chickens. We're making these things and doing the tests in rats and in mice. And the interesting opportunity is that we can start using things even like cell phones. These devices consume only about 5 microwatts of power, so they're very low power. And we can think about building systems that allow us to not have to rely on the sporadic tests painful tests at times, doing the finger prick. We can think about instead using these devices that can be injected, that are minimally invasive, and that can measure our well-being.